사람들에게는 만사의 형통할 수 있다.
And the kingdom of God and his citizens are kings and queens that stand with the King of Kings and his kingship, that rule with the rod of iron in peace, justice, and mercy. Citizens are ours.
Now, the Rod of Iron Ministries, which is another offshoot of this church.
This is a satanic antichrist devil. These are not real Christians.
This is a cult.
We're very much opposed to it.
America, we don't worship government, we worship God.
How many of you feel safer knowing that your teacher has a gun? All of you.
We need to turn back to God.
Not to be dependent on the government.
Revelation 3:11, let no man take thy crown, hold fast to what God has. I want to show you this video. We're studying the Concealed Carry University class at church with everybody on Sundays, and he's making a point, of course, that just because you have a small rod of iron or a small firearm on you doesn't mean that it makes you safer. You also have to have other types of defensive skills, and here is an example of why you desperately need basic ground skills. Okay, let's take a look at this ASP, Active Self-Protection lesson with John.
Want to take your knowledge beyond the narrated videos? Join us on Active Self-Protection Extra and subscribe for multiple videos every week to help you get better in your defensive skills.
It's quite a good shot.
Hi everyone, this is John with today's Active Self-Protection lesson out of Kuwait. Here we're going to see an absolutely unprovoked attack on an Egyptian shopkeeper by a Kuwaiti man. And we're going to learn important lessons here about ground skills and why we say again and again that every self-defender needs them. Number 2, about avoidance, de-escalation, and escape if at all possible. And number 3, that when you're in a vulnerable population and that changes based on where you are, you got to recognize that these attacks are more likely to come your way. We see it start very quick here as a guy that's on the bottom just reaches out and punches a guy in the top really hard. And now it's going to get on. They're really going to get after it. And if you use Google Translate on the raw that's in the description, what you'll see is that there might be some racial overtones to this. It's an Egyptian place with a Kuwaiti immigrant who's running it. And there might be some racial overtones here that started this. But at any rate, now he's knocked this guy down on the ground, and he's just going to dominate him and absolutely smother him on the ground here. And the clerk here in the store just really has no ability to get out from under this guy. He's very aggressive, he's big, he's strong, and he's just going to absolutely
no skills
dominate him. You can see our guy on the bottom is trying to keep him off him, but he appears not to have any significant amount of training in grounded combat, in any kind of ground fighting or anything like that. Finally here, we're going to see a bystander come and try to get this guy off of him and just kind of try to remove him. And another bystander is going to come over and give a little help as well, because they realize, man, this is more than enough. What are you doing? I don't care what he did to you. Get off the guy. Now, what we're going to see here is that our aggressor is going to get off, and when he does, he's going to just soccer kick that guy right in the face, and it is over for him at that point. You can see he is completely out. Now, they finally get him out of the store, and I want to notice here that our victim is completely out. He is not moving at all, but it's not quite over yet, because what's going to happen is our aggressor is going to come back in with something like a golf club or something, some kind of a rod, and it's going to just take that to him several times as well, and then finally kind of just get tired of having his way, and this one's over. Let's go back and think about some lessons out of this one, folks. Now, I want you to pay attention to how this one starts. That first of all, our aggressor real quick is going to just kind of smack him across the face there. And that is social violence. That right there is he's trying to show him where his place is. And if you're going to be the victim of social violence, you got to know how to respond to it, to de-escalate, escape, evade, to know how to deal with someone who's a social aggressor. And what our victim does here is gives it back to him. And that's where his mistake was. Friends, if you're going to respond to social violence cues like that, you cannot respond in kind, because that's just going to enrage the guy. That's going to give him what he wants to really get after you. You either got to de-escalate, escape, and evade, or decide that physical assault was enough of a cue that you're going to go with everything you have. But because this guy didn't, now he's the one who takes the right hook there, and now it's going to be on. Now, for the rest of this, I really want to talk about your training, that you really want to make sure that you have empty-handed skill.
Now you can see right there, as the attacker was bridging closer, closer, closer. First of all, the defender, the victim, did not have his hands up, okay? And that's the first thing you have to do is you have to create a protective zone around you, and you don't let the guy come up in your face, and you don't let him start punching you in the face. As soon as a guy is close within range, you must have your hands up, say, hey, buddy, stay away. And if he gets too close, that's where you break the distance and come in close. Because, as you can see, it ends up on the ground anyways. It ends up on the ground anyways. And when a guy is coming that close to you, he's gonna definitely hit you. No question about it. He's gonna sucker punch you. So before he does so, which of course he did sucker punch him, before he does so, that's where in jiu-jitsu and MMA, you learn how to break into the clinch and go into the clinch. And from the clinch, you learn how to take him down. Now, in this case, the guy is overpowering him, throws him down, gets an underhook on him, as you can see, and starts throwing him. He's trying to punch him, and then boom, he just muscles him down onto the ground. The victim loses his balance and, of course, goes to the ground. This is how most fights look like, because 90+% of fights will go to the ground. It is almost guaranteed that a fight will go to the ground. And this is why the Gracie Jiu-Jitsu was so revolutionary, is because other martial arts did not train on the ground. And Gracie Jiu-Jitsu only trained on the ground. Well, 90% trained on the ground. Because they knew the reality that if you don't know ground fighting, in empty hands combat, you will end up on the ground. And as you can see in this assault, not only does a fight end up on the ground, this man nowadays, because of mixed martial arts and the UFC, the general knowledge of martial arts and real combat fighting is going up. It's gone up. People now know that there's something called ground fighting. There's something called jiu-jitsu. Very mainstream now. People at least know about it. They don't know, they might not necessarily know what to do, but they know of the ground fighting arts. Okay. And as you can see, this man quickly gets a knee on the belly. It's a kind of a half guard. It's kind of a quarter guard knee on belly. But as you can see, he's pummeling onto a position in jiu-jitsu where we call it the mounted position. And that is when the attacker or the bad guy, like now you see he's on top of him. On top of him with his basically sitting on top of his stomach, okay, with his feet around and wrapped in, and he's now from the top. He can reach down and punch you, while you cannot punch him back. This is a bad position when you are in a fighting situation, okay. The problem with a lot of just competitive jiu-jitsu schools is that you forget how dangerous this position is in real fighting. So that's why striking and smacking, being able to strike and training jiu-jitsu with striking is so important, because then you can start respecting the mount. And you start respecting how dangerous the mount is. Whereas in just submission-based jiu-jitsu, you can sit there all day long and defend the guy his attacks from the mount. But when he's able to strike you, as you can see here, look at all these strikes being hit. Boom.
The guy on top does have some training. He's using his knees.
Now the guy on the bottom doesn't know what he's doing. He has absolutely no idea what he's doing, because from here he should immediately be umping. He should be off balancing the person by lifting his hips. He should immediately be elbow escaping and starting to bring out the legs from under the attacker. He should immediately be putting him into the guard position where he can control distance a lot better, because he's already on the ground anyways. You got to get into a better position, and he should be immediately going to the guard position, where he can kick from there, or he can go to different submissions, or at least control the opponent and not be pummeled like he's being pummeled right now. So you can see that he fights. This guy ends up on the ground, and the attacker continues to dominate from the top position. As you can see, throwing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 strikes already. 7, 8.
Has almost no ability to get out.
And the guy on the bottom has absolutely no idea what he's doing. All he's doing is trying to block the punches, which is a very stupid idea. Instead of off-balancing your opponent and taking his punches away completely, and there's of course the umpa technique to do that for a second, a fraction of a second, etc., by which you immediately move into different elbow escape variations, etc.
from a grounded
You can see his
position.
legs are not even engaged. His legs are not even hooking or starting to grab at the other legs in order to elbow escape out. He has absolutely no idea what he's doing. And of course, this is one of the first lessons you learn when you do self-defense in combat arts, ground fighting, jiu-jitsu, MMA. You will learn how to escape the mounted position because it is a dangerous position in real street combat, okay, on empty hands, hand-to-hand combat. Now you can see most of you see this fight start from the standing, then it goes to the ground, then two other bystanders try to help him, pulling him off. The guy gets kicked in the face, gets knocked out. The attacker goes out and comes back in with a stick or a golf club or something and starts beating the guy in the face with a golf club. So again, a weapon is involved again. 40% of all street fighting or all fights in general, okay, confrontations and physical violence involves weapons. And as you can see, the attacker here,
Might have helped him
after
here.
he's pulled off,
But this
brings
guy's
a
really showing some
weapon
significant aggression at the same time. So
to
this
beat
is why
up
I
this
say,
Egyptian
invest the
guy
time.
even more.
Learn how to defend yourself from somebody who's an aggressor. Now,
So you can
this
see he
guy's
doesn't-
showing
he doesn't know what he's doing.
sociopathic tendencies here, you know, and you
He's
can't
throwing
always
stuff in his
say
face,
that's the guy you're
punching
gonna fight.
him.
But now I want to talk a little bit too about this bystander who steps in. You know, you got to think about stepping into someone else's fight because he can
Now the bystander is just trying to pull this guy off.
easily turn that aggression on you because then the sociopath can then say, hey, you're helping this guy and he is my enemy, so therefore you're my enemy. Now,
Kicks him right there in the face. So again, the guy who was trying to help him didn't know what he's doing. He's just trying to pull him off. If it was one of the kids, they would immediately probably jump on his back, get their hooks in, and they would start strangling him, putting him to sleep. And within 8 seconds, he would be put to sleep. To stop that attacker. But they're casually trying to pull him off, and as John says here, the assault can quickly switch onto you because that guy's not subduing him or submitting him. He's simply just pulling him off. And if that guy continued to be aggressive, he could have turned on the bystanders and started pummeling and beating up the bystanders, which is also very common as well. So again, the bystanders are putting themselves at risk because they don't know what they're doing. And they put themselves in harm's way again. Of course, they're trying to help this guy, but in the end, it doesn't help at all.
obviously, the last thing I want to talk about here as well is this is why you want to have those grappling skills because now he's
Stomping his
defenseless.
face, kicking,
And this
soccer
guy
kicking his
can
face,
do
see that?
anything to him that he wants, and he's
he's
going to
completely
do
out.
that, which is why we say you got to protect your head.
So it's not enough to have just a gun on your person. Now, there's a lot of cases, and as we go into Concealed Carry University, we'll see that there's cases where the person has a gun, the attacker, because the attacks happen very quickly. If you don't have a general buffer of protection around you, if you don't keep your hands up, you don't realize people will sucker punch you, you don't realize that if they're coming too close, you have to engage them or run away. But there's many cases where the person got thrown to the ground, tries to pull out his gun, and the bad guy sees it, grabs the gun out from his hand, and shoots him in the chest and kills him. Why? Because that guy has no skills, no other self-defense skills. He only has a gun on his body. And just because you have a gun on your body doesn't mean you will be able to win in an encounter, because a lot of these encounters, as you will see, involve very close grappling. The guy's falling on the ground, and then the guy is trying to pull out a gun, and the bad guy sees the gun, grabs the gun, beats it out of his hand, and then starts pistol whipping him or shoots him in the chest or in the head, in the face. So it actually turns your weapon against you, okay? This is why in the kingdom of God, the rod of iron is not enough. It's the culture of the rod of iron and the culture of peace, police, peace, militia. And you will be trained in active self-defense. You will be trained in ground combat and jiu-jitsu. You will be trained in basic MMA training. You will be trained in that. So you will use that in conjunction with your weapon. Okay, you will learn knife fighting and training arts. You will learn firearms and rod of iron arts, obviously. But in conjunction with the rod of iron training. Okay, now, if you knew a little bit of jiu-jitsu, a little bit, and you had some of that resistance training in the dojo, Okay, you won't let the guy mount you and start controlling your arms as you try to grab for your gun. You will immediately know how to get to butterfly guard, how to push him away, how to get throw control, how to frame and make distance, and then reach for your gun at a appropriate distance with your legs engaged as buffer zones to push and keep him away and controlled. You'll already know how to do that because you'll have trained and practiced at least the elbow escape, and people on top of you trying not allowing you to escape that. You'll learn how to fight through that. Okay. You'll learn basic positions on the ground because 90% of fights end up on the ground. And if an attacker attacks you, as you see in Concealed Carry University, a handgun does not have stopping power. It does not have stopping power. It will not drop your opponent unless you hit him in the spinal cord or in the head box. Okay? It won't drop him. It'll go right through him. So your attacker, even though he's being shot, will still have a chance to run on top of you, dominate you, and throw you down on the ground and try to take your gun, which has happened. And probably in next week we'll see that actual footage where he does take the gun and shoots the guy in the chest and the face. And there's many cases where that happens. So again, you have to be an overall warrior. You can't just be a gun toter. You have to be an overall warrior that has general skills of combat so as to keep your weapon away from your opponent so you can safely draw it in a more high probability location. Okay, in situation where then you can engage that target, but you have multiple frames that you've already created to get the proper distance so that person cannot control your weapon. Okay, and that's why, of course, Rener Gracie and those guys not only train military, but they also, the Gracie brothers and the Jiu-Jitsu guys, not only train military, they also train law enforcement. Because again, your opponent can overpower you, throw you on the ground, and if you don't have any type of ground skills, you're going to be in a serious amount of hurt, and possibly you will end up dead. So it's very, very important. Obviously, for those in our community, obviously you should be training with your firearm, but make sure you get other training as well. Come to the martial arts training as well. And, if you're a little older and things like that, we're going to keep it safe, obviously. We will not make you do fighting with the younger people, etc. And we'll make sure that you do not get injured, but you understand the basics of evasion on the ground, understand how to get out of bad situations on the ground, so you don't get your firearm taken away and you don't die. Okay? Your probability will increase of survival. And of course, in real combat, it's never no guarantees, but you are talking about probabilities and increasing probability. And of course, as you see in this video, you don't want to be this man. If this man,
absolutely nothing.
if this man, since his very low level of skill, which is quite visible, now he's getting beaten with a lethal force with a golf club. Okay,
but certainly we should think.
So his face is being broken in, probably his cheeks are being smashed in with a golf club right now. Okay, so the guy comes back, smashes him in the face a couple times, kicks him in the face a couple times, and of course this man is lucky he survived. In this situation, with those kind of skills and that guy on top of you that fast, would he have done any better with a gun? Maybe not. The guy on top was dominating him so powerfully and had the proper mounted positions of domination. If he even tried to reach for his gun, he'd have trouble getting beyond the guy's leg to get to his hip. You'd have a very hard time trying to get to your hip. You wouldn't probably really be able to draw your gun. If you did draw your gun, the guy on top is punching you, pummeling you. He would be able to most likely see the gun. Okay? And then start controlling your hands because you're in such an inferior position. Such an inferior position. As you can see right here. Okay? He's in such an inferior position. So even if you did manage to get your gun out, you'd probably get 2-on-1 hand control onto your wrists. You wouldn't be able to hit him. He'd beat it out of you, take the gun from you, and shoot you in the throat, shoot you in the face, or shoot you in the chest. And you would end up dead. So again, as we learn at Concealed Carry University, just because you have a gun does not make you safer. Your mind is the weapon. The gun is just the tool. The knife is just a tool. Your mind is the weapon, okay? And when you train in empty hands training, that's why empty hands training, real combat arts, is critical, because it develops your mind under stress. The ability for you to think and fight back under stress, under being dominated, okay? And this is why it's very important, because your mind is the weapon. The force multiplier is just the tool. The tool doesn't make you deadly. It's your mind that makes you deadly. The tool will then amplify the skill you have in your mind, okay? And of course, under stress. And of course, as we learned in the Concealed Carry University, that's what you're doing. You're training your hippocampus, because when you're under fight or flight, your brain completely shuts down and or freezes, other than your hippocampus, which is responsible for your motor skills and your instinctual skills, okay? So when you train with people, in the empty hand combat arts, you are training under attack, under stress. You're not just shadow sparring. You're not just point sparring. You are training under stress with violence, okay? So you're training your hippocampus or your motor memory skills, all right? And so if you're in this situation, you will your motor skills will already be taking over, and you would not act like this Egyptian guy who did not know what he was doing. He had absolutely no idea what he's doing. And you can see as he's getting pummeled here, now he's instinctually behaving, and if you can see, look here, he's instinctually behaving as he's getting punched,
and his feet
trying to keep his face covered, trying to
see.
He's thinking. So he is actually thinking. He's trying to keep his face covered. He sometimes is trying to grab at the hands, which is a bad idea, but he doesn't know what he's doing. He's not umping. He's not elbow escaping. He's not getting on his side and starting to shrimp out. None of that, because he doesn't know what he's doing. So again, in this scenario, if you have a gun, doesn't matter. You're going to be dominated, okay? Having the skills of your mind, training your mind, having the motor skills that are trained through empty hands combat martial art, like Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, empowers you to get out of this bad situation, then to get to your weapon, okay? So you don't even need tons of training, but you do need some training with people trying to dominate you and having that resistance on you. Very, very, very critical. It ended up very, very badly for this man, as you can see.
That you gotta have your
very,
spiritual
very
awesome.
badly for this man. He's lucky he's not dead. He's lucky he's not dead. But again, that's what happens. Now, it doesn't always end that way. You can see this quick thinking CCW
When it
holder
comes
here.
time to use your defensive firearm,
Look at this
you're
one.
responsible for every round that leaves the muzzle.
This man was ready for the robber, okay? And he did not.
Hi everyone, this is John.
Let's take a look at
Today's
this.
active self-protection lesson out of Detroit. Today's lesson is brought to us by GunMagWarehouse.com. They have fantastic prices on magazines for rifles and for pistols, incredibly fast shipping, and the best customer service on the web. They're who I use to get all of my magazines, and I recommend them highly. Check out the link to GunMagWarehouse.com in the description and tell them that we sent you, and thanks for sponsoring today's video. What we're going to learn in today's video is the incredible importance of keeping your firearm on you, of earning your draw, and of being sure that you don't endanger bystanders when you use your firearm. The guy on the left here is our perp, and our victim is going to come from the right by the car. And what we see here is our perp pull a gun, and you're going to see the victim put his hand up and quickly snatch that gun away and shoot him multiple times. If you go read the news story in the description, the guy in the blue was the victim's cousin who was also shot multiple times, and it is over just that quick. Let's go back and learn some
See how fast that was?
out of this one. First one here, you can see the kind of body language here, which is why awareness is so important. You got to kind of see what he's doing. Not a lot of furtive gestures beforehand, though. Of course, we don't got a lot of context. Secondly, see how quickly he pulls the gun, and now he's going to use that firearm as an intimidation tool. And there is a little bit of distance between the perp and the victim here, and this is why awareness is so important, because it let the victim have a little bit of time to start to plan his counter ambush. And I love here that what you see from the victim is you see that
hands up.
out, hand up, feigned submission. It's a great tactic to buy a little bit of time to look for your opportunity to counter ambush. Now we're going to see him use it very quickly here, and he's going to get within an arm's distance. Now this, when we're talking about being a defensive shooter, is why we tell you inside 2 arms length distances, you don't want to put your gun out that much. Thankfully, bad guys are stupid, and so he did that here, and our good guy used that to deflect the muzzle. Now he's not going to go all the way through the 5Ds+1 because he's going to draw his own gun here, and once he deflects the muzzle, now we're in a speed race. And our good guy's able to get his gun on target first and start putting shots on target. Now, I do notice, is his stance great? No, he doesn't have a shooting stance, and he only has one hand on the gun. That may be the best shot you have, which is why you want to learn to shoot from compromised positions. Next, I want to talk about bystander.
He is moving offline, so it's much harder to hit that good guy because he's moving and flanking his opponent. And of course, that's in firearms training, in self-defense firearms training, you train not just standing still and shooting, because if you just move towards your opponent, all you're doing is becoming a bigger target or a smaller target. You train by moving offline, moving off, and you can see this guy, he's literally skipping away like a basketball athlete. He did a very good job of flanking and getting offline to the side of his opponent, trying to get to the side of his opponent, and firing back, and of course surviving this incident. But again, he acted quick. You saw him act very quick. He could see this guy was acting weird around his car. He could see this dude is probably staring at him a little bit. He could feel this guy may be coming, and he was able to get to his gun before and shoot back. So kudos to him. But you saw how fast that all happened. It happened all very, very fast, folks. Look at this. Look how fast it happens. One more time.
You got to kind of see what he's doing. Not a lot of furtive gestures beforehand, though. Of course, we don't got a lot of context. Secondly, see how quickly he pulls the gun, and now he's going to use that firearm as an intimidation tool. And there is a little bit of distance between the perp and the victim here, and this is why awareness is so important, because it let the victim.
Let's see how fast it happens again.
And our victim is going to come from the right by the car.
Watch how fast this happens.
See here is our perp
2,
pull a gun, and
3,
you see the victim put his
4,
hand up and quickly
5,
snatch that gun away
6,
and shoot him
7. That's
times.
7 seconds.
Read the news story in the description. The guy.
Within 7 seconds, it's pretty much done. Okay? So then you see, and that guy survived because he thought quick. He moved fast. He probably has some basic boxing skills. He did an inside parry, as you can see. He had some type of martial arts skill. I mean, that was he acted. He moved very quickly. He got to his gun fast. I wouldn't be surprised if that guy has some boxing skills, and the perpetrator could not get to him in a clinch. So again, you see the variety of what happens in the infinitude of situations that can happen. But again, keeping the opponent appropriate distance away from your weapon is absolutely critical once you have the consciousness of weapons. Absolutely critical. You cannot let him get control of that weapon. And this guy parried his hand away as he sidestepped to the side, moving like a boxer. I mean, he moved very well for a big guy, moving offline and then being able to fire back while he's moving. Do you see that? He was firing back as he was moving. He's not staying still. He's firing back as he's moving.
Right by the car. And what we see here is our perp pull a gun, and you're going to see the victim put his hand.
Boom! He starts moving. He starts shuffling off to the side.
Go read the news story in the description. The guy in the blue was the victim's cousin, who was also shot multiple times and hit.
Moving and shooting.
Just that quick. Let's go back.
Okay, so you can see how fast that happened, but you can see him moving and shooting. All right? All right, folks, that's enough for our self-defense lesson this morning. Let's take a short break, and we'll be right back after this. Stay with us.